Coming up on Arirang News, North Korea again just a few hours ago sent more trash-carrying balloons to the south after sending some earlier on Thursday morning and the night before. We take a look at the reasons why. During the April to June period, South Korea's economy shrank 0.2% compared to the previous quarter, partly due to weaker domestic demand. This is the first quarterly contraction in 18 months. President Yoon today held his 28th policy dialogue in Gwangju, where he pledged to develop the city as the center of the latest technology with the future industries of AI and mobility. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. I'm Kim Bo-kyung. We start with the latest from North Korea. Just a few hours ago, the reclusive regime started to launch more trash-carrying balloons across the border, having also sent some earlier this morning and the night before. This follows the South Korean government's strong criticism towards the North's recent moves. Our foreign affairs correspondent Bae Eun-ji has the latest.
North Korea once again sent more trash-carrying balloons toward the south on Thursday evening. South Korea's military advised the public to beware of objects dropping from the sky, refrain from touching them, and to report them to the police or military. This is the third time in 2 days that the North has flown these kinds of balloons. The regime sent some from 9 a.m. to noon on Thursday, following the resumption of its balloon campaign the night before, after around a month. The Joint Chiefs of Staff said Pyongyang launched around 480 balloons from Wednesday night to Thursday morning, and that around 100 of them, carrying paper and plastic bottles, were found in Seoul and northern Gyeonggi-do province.
As for the rest of the balloons, they may have been blown back to North Korea, or there may be some that we have not been able to find just yet. But considering the direction of the wind, we believe there is a possibility that some of the balloons might have fallen in areas that we are unable to observe.
The North has launched thousands of balloons carrying trash in recent months, in protest against propaganda leaflets sent by North Korean activists and defectors in South Korea. In response, the South has been using frontline loudspeakers to blast broadcasts of propaganda messages and K-pop songs. An expert on North Korea says it's also important to look at the timing of the North resuming its balloon campaign.
It's a move to counter anti-North Korea leaflets, and I believe their strategic motive is to create anxiety ahead of Japanese Prime Minister Kishida's visit and the Chuseok holidays.
The South Korean government said voluntary actions from civic organizations cannot be an excuse for the North's provocative actions, calling it reckless behavior. Bae Eun-ji, Arirang News.
During their annual dialogue on extended deterrence this year, South Korea and the US have discussed responses to what they believe could be a major provocation by North Korea around the time of the US presidential election in November. Our Kim Jung-sil reports.
The fifth meeting of the Extended Deterrence Strategy and Consultation Group, or EDSCG, between South Korea and the U.S. took place in Washington on Wednesday local time. For the first time at the meeting, the two countries conducted a scenario-based discussion on North Korea's nuclear threats to strengthen policy planning and coordination. South Korea's first Vice Foreign Minister Kim Yoon told reporters after the meeting that the EDSCG discussed a range of possible provocations by Pyongyang and responses around the time of the upcoming U.S. presidential election. He said both Seoul and Washington believe a major provocation around that time cannot be ruled out as North Korea continues to enhance its nuclear capabilities and is continuing provocations including jamming GPS signals or sending balloons carrying waste. Kim and Deputy Minister for National Defense Policy Cho Chang-rae led the South Korean delegation, while Undersecretary of State for Arms Control and International Security Bonnie Jenkins and Acting Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Policy Kara Abercrombie led the U.S. delegation. The U.S. Department of Defense released a statement shortly after the meeting and said the U.S. reiterated its ironclad commitment to draw on the full range of its military capabilities, including nuclear, to support extended deterrence for South Korea. The statement added that both sides reaffirmed that any nuclear attack by the DPRK against the ROK will be met with a swift, overwhelming, and decisive response, adding that any nuclear attack by North Korea against the US or its allies is unacceptable and will result in the end of that regime. The EDSCG serves as a key annual forum on security strategy affecting the Korean Peninsula and broader Indo-Pacific. 김정실, Arirang News.
South Korea has obtained a partial list of people who were on board a Japanese vessel that sank in August 1945, known to have killed thousands of Koreans. The Foreign Ministry said that after repeated requests on Thursday, Japan provided South Korea with 19 out of 75 documents. The vessel was transporting Korean wartime forced laborers home after the end of World War II, but suddenly exploded and sank. Shifting gears to the economy, South Korea's GDP shrank 0.2% on quarter from April to June, unlike what it was in the first quarter. Tae-young has the details.
South Korea's economy contracted in the second quarter compared to the first quarter this year. According to data released by the Bank of Korea on Thursday, the country's gross domestic product from April till June shrunk by 0.2% compared to the previous quarter. It's the first time in 18 months for the on-quarter growth to be negative. This is mostly attributed to the base effect caused by a relatively high GDP growth of 1.3% in the first quarter. An increase in imports compared to exports was also behind the downturn. Production saw growth of 0.8% as manufacturing for transportation equipment rose. Exports also rose on the back of outbound shipments for automobiles and chemical products, but net exports dropped as imports for petroleum and natural gas products went up. Private spending also saw sluggish recovery as consumption of goods such as cars and clothing dropped, leading to a fall of 0.2%. Infrastructure and construction investment also fell compared to the previous quarter. Machinery investment, such as for semiconductor manufacturing equipment, decreased, while construction investment, which led the growth in the first quarter with an increase of 3.3%, also fell to 1.7% in the second quarter. However, an official from the Bank of Korea noted that a downturn in the second quarter does not necessarily imply this will continue for the rest of the year.
The second half of the year, in fact, is seeing a recovery in domestic demand, as exports in the first half increased and good performances by companies have led to increased investment. As inflation also slows down, this will further improve the real income as well.
Meanwhile, the country's gross national income, the total amount of money earned by people and businesses, was up 0.9% on quarter as net factory income from the rest of the world decreased. However, the real gross national income fell by 1.4%, which the agency attributed to worsening of trade conditions. Net foreign income, which is calculated by subtracting the income sent abroad by foreigners and foreign firms operating within the country from the total income earned by Koreans from foreign sources, also fell compared to the previous quarter. 차윤경, Arirang News.
In other news, the government says it's doing its best to resolve the shortage of medical personnel in emergency units, currently by dispatching military doctors to fill the gap. However, hospitals argued they might not be suitable. Choi Min-jung reports.
Earlier this week, a man in his 70s died after falling from a building at a construction site. Though he was still conscious, he was unable to have an emergency operation due to a lack of medical personnel in nearby emergency rooms. Hospitals across the country have been facing a shortage of doctors in medical units amid the prolonged walkout by trainee doctors. To solve the problem, the government on Wednesday dispatched 15 military doctors to assist in the emergency rooms. However, the effectiveness of the solution is being questioned. Ewha Women's University Mokdong Hospital had to return 3 military doctors after determining they were not suitable for emergency room work. The Health Ministry on Thursday said it will work closely with the Defense Ministry to overcome the difficulties.
We heard they're having a hard time working in the emergency rooms, so we'll discuss this with the Defense Ministry and try to be of maximum help.
The government currently plans to send an additional of more than 200 military doctors and public physicians by Monday. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
As part of Seoul's pilot program to offer more affordable childcare, 100 Filipino caregivers arrived in the country last month and this week started work. Our economics correspondent Moon Il-yeon has the details.
Last month, 100 Filipino women landed at Incheon Airport as part of the government's efforts to address the demographic time bomb. Since their arrival, they've taken mandated caregiver training run by the government to prepare them for the work they'll be doing for the next 6 months. The competition to be selected to employ their services was fierce, with 731 South Korean households applying and only 157 selected. The majority of those chosen for the pilot program were working parents with more than one child, with the target groups being working, single, or expecting parents. Caregivers can be hired for 4 or 8 hours a day, and based on a 40-hour working week, their monthly wages total 2.38 million Korean won, or nearly $1,800. At 0.72 last year, the country's fertility rate remains one of the world's lowest and far below the level needed for a stable population. Experts point to demanding jobs, stagnant wages, and rising living costs as key factors. Dual-income households have surged as a result, surpassing 6 million last year, with over half of families with young children having both parents working full-time. But despite growing demand for childcare services, the government says there's a shortage and existing options are too costly. This pilot program aims to tackle this issue, but $1,800 per month is no small sum for the average parent in South Korea, and is being seen as one of the reasons why many households that applied and were selected for the pilot program were located in the capital's wealthier areas. Yet lowering costs could lead to other problems.
Reducing wages could make it more difficult to secure workers, as foreign domestic workers have many other options once they get into Korea.
Vague guidelines of work for Filipino caregivers which restrict them to childcare have also been raised as an issue. This may have contributed to 15 households cancelling on the first day, though no official reasons were given. However, experts note that as a pilot program, it offers a chance to improve and could serve as a model for addressing broader demographic issues.
It would be more realistic to view this as a policy experiment to test how foreign workers can be utilised in caregiving services for the elderly population in a super-aging society.
The government plans to bring in up to 1,000 caregivers by 2028 if this pilot takes off, but discussions are still underway. Moon Il-yeon, Arirang News.
Researchers believe a substantial reserve of lithium, which is key to EV battery, may be buried in 2 counties here in Korea. Yoon with more.
The core element of secondary batteries that electric vehicles run on is lithium. The crucial mineral is dubbed white gold. But South Korea still imports all of the country's lithium needs. But now, after examining 12 likely sites across the country, the Korea Institute of Geoscience and Mineral Resources may have found 2 mineral deposit locations that could have large amounts of lithium. Uljin County in Gyeongsangbuk-do Province and Danyang County in Chungcheongbuk-do Province.
이 지역에서 얼마나 좀 리튬이 많이 보존돼 있는가를 그 양을 꼭 확인을 해야 되기 때문에 저희가 지금 이제 한 50m 간격으로 시루를 지금 쭉 채취를 해야 됩니다.
The mineral deposit discovered in Uljin County is nearly 60 meters wide, and its location is near the Boam mine, a major mining site in the 1940s and 50s. But the problem is that these reserves cannot be drilled to confirm lithium content due to environmental protection codes.
This area is the protected Kumgangsong pine grove. We've had discussions with the Korea Forest Service, but the final answer is no drilling.
The possible deposit site in Danyang County is on land owned by small domestic companies. Samples have shown that the quality may be lower than what would be extracted in Uljin County, but drilling may be possible if an agreement can be reached with the landowners.
There is a company that Bill Gates has invested in. It has data scientists and geologists. Now we're hoping to conduct an exploratory drilling in collaboration with that company.
The institute said in addition to the 12 locations explored this time, their artificial intelligence has selected another 35 possible mining locations, which it hopes to visit and examine this year to determine the potential amount of lithium content. Yoon, Arirang News.
President Yoon resumed his policy dialogue today, this time in Gwangju. There, he pledged to foster the city further with a focus on AI and culture. Our Kim Do-yeon explains.
After a 2-month pause, President Yoon Suk-yeol was back on the road on Thursday for a public policy dialogue. This time in the southwestern city of Gwangju, he focused on 2 industries to foster the city further: AI and mobility-based advanced technology, and culture. In fact, the dialogue was held at Gwangju Institute of Science and Technology.
저는 오늘 광주의 새로운 미래를 열어갈 3가지 비전을 제시하겠습니다. 첫째는 AI와 모빌리티로 미래 산업을 선도하는 첨단 기술 도시. 둘째는 문화로 빛나는 글로벌 문화 허브 도시이며, 셋째는 시민이 살기 좋은 활력 넘치는 도시입니다.
For AI mobility, Yoon made sure that the government will put in 53.4 billion Korean won, or around $40 million as per the plan, to support Gwangju's autonomous driving specialized materials and components district, which received designation in July 2023. President Yoon also issued direct orders on the spot, as is the nature of these policy dialogues, when a business owner suggested more administrative help is needed, such as lifting greenbelt restrictions for industries.
We are concerned that if approval and certification do not come by 2026 as scheduled, we won't be able to build the factory and expand globally.
그 그린벨트 해제 전제 조건에 관한 협의를 꼭 마무리해서 올해 안에는 완결칩시다.
As for fostering the city as the nation's cultural hub, President Yoon pledged to put in 118 billion Korean won, or more than $88 million, for a new Biennale exhibition hall in the city. Gwangju Biennale, started in 1995, has become Asia's oldest biennial of contemporary art and also one of the world's top 5. The Minister of Culture, who also joined the dialogue, emphasized the city's potential as it's already known for landmarks and activities.
Local 100 is actually designating 100 local landmarks and sites, but Gwangju actually has 5 designated. This is an amazing thing. Many other cities only have 1 spot.
In the meantime, President Yoon also pledged to make sure local public transport is expanded and upgraded along with the development. For example, as there will be the city's first shopping complex in 2027, Yoon pledged to make sure it's accessible to the public and doesn't create too much traffic. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, while attending an annual contemporary art exhibition in the city of Gwangju, President Yoon highlighted South Korea's growth as a global cultural hub. On Thursday, Yoon visited the Asia Pavilion at the 15th Gwangju Biennale to show his support for the city's growing reputation in global culture and arts. With South Korea set to host the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit next year, the president dropped by the pavilions of Southeast Asian countries, including those of the Philippines and Singapore. Commending those who helped foster the growth of the Gwangju Biennale into an international event, Yoon said the government will actively support efforts to enhance the Biennale's global brand and recognition. On the cultural front, at this time of year, nights in the capital get brighter thanks to a festival that displays media art on Dongdaemun Design Plaza's wide exterior wall. Our Park Go-nu takes you there.
A 222-meter wide facade showcasing media art illuminates the Seoul night.
This is part of the Seoul Light DDP 2024 Autumn Festival that kicked off a week ago at Dongdaemun Design Plaza, a multicultural complex in central Seoul. The event has been lighting the night once a year since 2019, and twice a year in fall and again in winter from last year. The fall edition of this year's event is even more special as the venue Dongdaemun Design Plaza celebrates its 10th anniversary. The event mainly showcases media artworks inspired by the world-renowned abstract artist Kim Hwan-gi. Marking the 50th year since Kim's death, the 8-minute-long media art piece, Poetry of Time, reinterprets 9 of Kim's works drawn during his 40 years as an artist. It depicts Kim's intention to capture the essence of eternal time in his artwork, while reflecting the themes of life and love. Another 7-minute art invitation created by a media art label Verste is displayed afterwards, showcasing the decade-long journey of DDP as a Seoul landmark. At the site, other artworks created by renowned artists from Australia, the UK, and Switzerland are also displayed for people to enjoy. While around 500,000 people came to the fall edition event in 2023, expectations are high that even more people will visit this year.
The event has brought nearly 20% more people compared to last year. This weekend is estimated to be the peak, so we predict the total number of visitors to exceed 20%.
Among those visitors, it was easy to spot travelers from other countries.
It's very abstract for my taste, but it's very exciting, new, and especially like for an art form that shows the building itself in the nightlife of Seoul.
The more I look at it, the more I want to see it. I came here by chance but kept watching it. The silhouette, color, and movement made me absorbed into the art.
The festival runs every night from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. until Sunday, so why not enjoy the night vibe of Seoul with inspirational media art? Park Gon-woo, Arirang News.
In the U.S., a teenager opened fire at his high school in the state of Georgia on Wednesday, killing at least 2 teachers and 2 schoolmates in yet another appalling case of gun violence within America's academic arena. Lee Seung-jae reports.
As of July 2024, there were 35 incidents of shootings on school grounds and college campuses in the United States. That figure rose on Wednesday in the state of Georgia when a 14-year-old fired at students and teachers at Appalachia High School in Barrow County. 2 students and 2 teachers were killed, and 30 others were wounded in the shooting, and authorities are investigating whether the victims were targeted. Initial reports said just 9 were injured during the shooting, but that figure rose significantly. Police say the teenage shooter, who has been named as Colt Gray, surrendered to authorities quickly after being confronted. The local county sheriff said Gray was cooperating with authorities and would be charged with murder and tried as an adult. As police continue to question the suspect, no motive has been revealed, and it's unknown whether there was any connection between the shooter and the victims. Authorities also say they do not know yet how the shooter was able to obtain the firearm. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland said the U.S. Department of Justice was ready to provide support to the victims and their families, adding he was devastated for the families involved. President Joe Biden also said he was mourning those who were killed, while calling on Congress to pass common-sense gun safety legislation. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
As rain clouds are developing sporadically, it has been raining in Seoul since the afternoon. It's a little cool during the rain, but when the rain stops, the humidity increases, so it's not completely relieving the heat. Rain will start in eastern parts of Gangwon-do province at dawn tomorrow. It will expand to the northern parts of Gyeongsang-buk-do province in the morning. It will stop in the afternoon, but up to 40 millimeters will fall in the meantime. In other areas, 5 to 40 millimeters of showers will pass from morning to night. Tomorrow, most areas will start off at least 23 degrees Celsius. Highs will move up to 31 in Seoul, Daejeon, Gwangju, Daegu, Gwangju, and Busan. This late heat will continue until the middle of next week. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That's all we have for today. Thank you for watching. Arirang News will be back at 9 a.m. Korea time.